Well, hey there, my sassy seekers, my nifty newbies, and other would-be witches and pagans of YouTube. It's me, your boy Shane, and welcome back to my channel, as the case may be. Today I want to talk to you about some of the do's and don'ts of reaching out to a coven for potential membership. I'm not going to cover so much how to go about finding a group, because number one, I feel like a lot of people have probably already covered that topic either online or podcasts or videos or TikToks, and probably far more better than I ever could, because you have to realize I'm 700 years old. I just take really good care of my skin. And when I became interested in witchcraft in the mid-90s, to early aughts, the internet was not as widespread as it is today. That's an understatement. And beyond not being widespread, it was also not super reliable or safe, right? Think like Dateline special in the making. So there weren't a lot of ways to connect with covens online yet, because not everybody was online yet, and even if they were, you didn't always know what you were getting yourself into. So, believe it or not, conventional wisdom in the 90s, to find a coven, you would go to, ideally, right, you would go to your local metaphysical shop, right, your local New Age witchy supply store, which is fantastic if you have one of those. I lived in the greater New York City metropolitan area, right, for the first 41 years of my life, so we had a handful. But not everybody has that. So, barring that, right, if you didn't have a cute little witch shop in your backyard, right, in your hood, then next down on the list, they would tell you to try to seek out feminist bookstores, organic food markets, yoga studios, meditation centers, and Unitarian Universalist churches, right? And look for like community bulletin boards, cork boards, and even at that, like, you had to read between the lines a little bit. Like, most people weren't out there advertising, like, starting up a witchcraft coven. It was just not the time for that. It was, they would post notices for, like, earth-based spirituality meeting group, or, goddess-centered spirituality meditation group, or whatever. And you had to kind of feel them out. So I am not the expert in how to find a coven on the worldwide, on Taylor Swift's internet, right? But I do know, I dabbled in Witchvox for a couple of years there before Witchvox shuttered its doors. Now the only website I know of is Mandragora Magica, which is a phenomenal resource. All right, so there you go. It's a pretty straightforward, beautifully laid out website, designed to be a Wiccan and Pagan worldwide network. And the very first thing you see when you scroll down is Find a Coven by location. Bam. So I'll put a link to Mandragora in the description box of this video. There's also a couple of good reputable Facebook groups. The resources are out there if you dig. Like I said, I'm just not familiar with most of them at this point in my life, because I've been in a coven since 2011, and I haven't had to go looking or seeking for anything new since then. So what I really wanted to focus on more today is, all right, now you found a coven, fantastic. How do you go about writing the introductory email, right? Making that first contact. Or sometimes you hear people also refer to it as the seeker email. First I'm going to go over what not to do. Please don't do these things. And I am going to pepper, my commentary with some real life examples. Of course, all the identifying information, names, ages, locations, whatever, will be redacted to protect everyone's privacy. And I know how I come off sometimes. The purpose of this video is not to make fun of these people, right? Who I have to assume are looking for a group in good faith, but to just really show you how, when you write some of those things, how they come across to the people receiving and reading those emails, okay? So, again, these are real life examples that either I personally have gotten or friends of mine have gotten. And we'll just jump right into it. So, number one, the first thing is please just please tell me something about yourself. Like, we get emails like this all the time.
Hello, I am interested in your coven. Please tell me more. Thank you. Hi, I'm looking for a witchy community to join. Please let me know if there's any chance for me to join any of your meetings. Best regards.
And that was it. That was the entire email. Both of those. And it just doesn't tell me anything. It gives me zero information, right? It's not a rude email. It doesn't even come off like as abrupt or impolite. It just gives me nothing. Why are you interested in a witchy community or a coven? What is your prior level of experience? What books have you read? Have you ever been part of a group before? Whereabouts do you live? Like, is traveling to my group going to be practical to you? What are some of your interests outside of witchcraft? It's just nothing at all, zero information. And when you say to someone, "Hey, please tell me more. I'd like to know more," or what would you like to know? Like, what specifically? Do you want to know, are you looking for logistics, like how often we meet or what are the requirements of membership? Or are you looking for our philosophy about, the ethics of magic and what our theological stance is? Like, don't just say, "Hey, I want to join and tell me more." Also, how do you know you want to join until you've asked us some of those things, right? Like, be a little selective. This is a two-way job interview. So just when I finish with all my, do's and don'ts, I'll give you some examples of what would be a great, seeker email or an introductory letter. And we'll cover some of that. So, but in the meantime, the next thing, what not to do. Please don't request that I get back to you immediately or get back to you ASAP or, tell me that it's urgent. Nobody ever died because they didn't join a coven, okay? It's not urgent. I'm not your doctor. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your lawyer. There's no need for me to go running to my email to answer you with urgency. Please respect the fact that your coven leaders and facilitators have lives of their own outside of the coven. First of all, assuming they're already running a coven, that alone keeps them quite busy, okay? And then on top of that, we have jobs, we have families, we have responsibilities. I was caring for sick parents for the whole last year. I was in school. Shit happens. So don't do this.
Hi, I'm seeking training in the craft and I'm new to witchcraft. I would like to learn more about the Wiccan religion. Please email me back as soon as possible to let me know more about training into the craft. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay. Perfectly polite, said thank you, introduced themselves, albeit very briefly, and said, "I'm brand new to this." Okay, a little bit of background, no problem. Again, just that, please email me back as soon as possible. I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way, that's all. It's just, please have respect for, the lives and needs of the people that, you are making a request of. We're not hurting for new members. You are the one that wants something from us. So just be respectful of that. All right. Next one is one that I gotta be honest with you, really mystifies me. Just really absolutely confuses me because I can almost understand, not giving any information about yourself, right? Maybe you don't know where to begin. Maybe you don't know what to say about yourself. And you don't want to go on and on, right? And waste all this time and effort typing up a whole long dissertation that's maybe not going to get read. Okay. Maybe you just say, "Oh, please get back to me as soon as possible," because you're trying to convey your enthusiasm and your willingness and to, get across the fact that you're like all in and you can't wait to start this journey. Fine. But this next one, I don't get it at all. You have nothing to gain by doing this. Please do not trash another coven, or worse still, the tradition that you're trying to join. So I can say that for myself personally, at least I've never had anybody come and trashing another coven to my face. But it's happened. It's happened, and it's bad form, okay? If you come to me and you're like, oh, I was interviewing with this XYZ coven, but like, I didn't like them, they were weirdos, they said this, they did that. First of all, you have to realize something, and that is, especially if you're looking in like the British traditional witchcraft context, we all know each other. Which isn't to say all the time that we all like each other, we all get along, or that we all, have the same political or social views, and all that's fine, right? But we all know each other. So if you come to me and you start talking about this negative experience you had with some other group, I'm going to contact that group and get their side of the story before I accept you into my group, and then it turns out the problem was you all along. We all know each other. Even if I don't like that other coven either, it's bad form. It's going to leave a bad taste in my mouth if one of the first conversations we have is not about your spiritual development or whether or not my group would be a good fit for you, but you start going off on some other group. It's not a good look. It's kind of like, if you ever been on a date with someone and they cannot stop talking negatively about their ex, you're like, first of all, I think you're still hung up on this person. And secondly, it makes you wonder. You're like, I wish I could get this other person's side of the story. And third, you can't help but think, like, is this what they're going to say about us when we're through? So yeah, don't trash another coven in your introductory email. Even if I personally agree with you, first of all, I'm never going to say that to you. It's just bad form. It's not cool. You can say, oh, I interviewed with this other group, I don't think we're a good fit for each other. Hey, that's valid. You could even say, hey, I don't think we're a good fit. Maybe everyone in that group was in their 20s and I'm 60 years old and we didn't have a lot of, stuff in common. We're at different places in our lives. All of that's fine. You could say, oh, I joined this group. This a real life example. Someone came to my group and was like, I was in a coven, but they're big partiers, right? Like during the Sabbats, they do lots of drinking, they do lots of drugs, they do this, they do that. I'm sober, I'm this, it's not really my lifestyle. Valid. You can say those things without making a value judgment. But when you come to me making a value judgment, saying, oh, these people are terrible human beings, it's not cool. And like I said, I haven't personally experienced that, but I've heard of it. But I do get people every once in a while who will try to interview with me, a Gardnerian high priestess running a Gardnerian coven, who come and trash the Gardnerian tradition, or Gerald Gardner, or Doreen Valiente, or, some other elder, or someone in my own upline. And, like, I don't know where you think that's going to get you, right? So, I'll give you an example, and this was not one of the ones that came to me. This was an email that came to a friend of mine.
In my ongoing research about the tradition, there were some things that didn't feel like they aligned with who I am as a person, particularly in regards to the initiation ceremony as well as skyclad work. I'm fine with others choosing to work skyclad in my presence, but no way I could ever do that. As you know, Gerald Gardner is a controversial figure, and the initiatory components during the initiation ceremony reflect that, which makes me uncomfortable.
I mean, I don't know how to say this any other way, but then you're barking up the wrong tree. Then Gardnerian Wicca is not for you. British traditional witchcraft, like maybe you need to either rethink that or rethink exactly which, tradition you are looking for, because some of them do work robed. But if that's the case, then why are you contacting a Gardnerian coven? I think you need to do your research, and I think you need to, reach out to a group that is going to have philosophies and practices that align with what you want. Because otherwise you're not going to be happy and the group's not going to be happy. So yeah, don't bash the tradition or its founder or its practices or another coven in that tradition. It's just I don't know where you think that's going to get you. And finally, my last don't is don't brag about your phenomenal, amazing psychic and magical abilities. It just comes off as boastful and grandiose at best, and a little delulu at worst, if I'm being completely honest. I can't tell you how many emails I've gotten from people who want to tell me all about how they can read their animals' minds, and how, they make these things happen with their mind, and all they want to tell me all about the details of their astral projections. Very cool. I don't care, and here's why. All of those things are subjective experiences, number one. Number two, they don't necessarily have anything to do with what we teach. And number three, it doesn't matter if you're like a, 12th degree wizard of whatever tradition, and you've been, entrenched in magic and paganism for 30 years, or if you picked up your first, I was going to say Scott Cunningham book yesterday, but I'm showing my age again, child of the 90s. 80s, 90s, 2000s. I don't know what people are reading these days, and that's a problem. I should. But, like, I don't care if you picked up your first book or watched your first witch talk yesterday. Like, we're starting in the same place, okay? We are starting at square one when we do your training. Just like, so I used to be a manager at Starbucks, and people used to come and interview all the time, and they'd be like, oh, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, and I worked at McDonald's, and I worked here, and I worked there, and I worked at an independent bakery cafe, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, very cool. Glad you have a general framework, but you don't get to skip your training. And that was kind of the prevailing attitude during their training. They're like, hey, I already know how to do this. No, you know Dunkin' Donuts recipes. You know McDonald's machinery. This bakery cafe's policies. I still have to train you to the specifics of what we are doing here and why we're doing it. So glad you have a general knowledge, like glad you're familiar enough and you feel at home with what we're doing, but you start day one with everyone else. But yeah, these were some of the more interesting emails I've gotten for sure.
Also, I should add that I have ADHD and another illness that can numb my emotions, which I am disclosing because magic seems to require emotions and intent, so I hope I won't be holding you back too much if I join. I may be overthinking it and might have not needed to say all this, but some spell I created lets you visit a person's mindscape, and feeling numb like me for a bit was an unexpected side effect, so I don't know, might be relevant.
There's a lot to unpack there, but I'd rather throw away the whole suitcase. Let's start with I don't need your DSM-5 diagnosis in an introductory email. Okay, we'll get to that later when we have trust and rapport and But sure, yeah, you created a spell that let you visit someone else's mindscape, and then you were in an unemotional and burnt out husk of a person after that. Okay.
How do you know I'm not bullshitting you about the magic stuff, and vice versa? I know awakening isn't just about the magic and abilities, but do I have to prove my stuff to you somehow? And I know this is selfish to ask, but it's 'cause I'd like some ability help, but if it's not too rude, is there a way you can prove yourself to me? I'm just scared of wasting time, and it's important that I awaken, and I'm patient, it's just I needed help with more than the basics that you guys would be teaching, because I'm all over the place, I think, and when the time comes for abilities in the lessons, I don't want to follow the methods of some liar or someone perhaps using me to see if their methods to awaken might work or something. I don't want my abilities to be taken advantage of, so if you can provide some reassurance, I'd appreciate it.
Sir, this is a Wendy's. Like, once again, a lot to say about that one. I'm not sure what this awakening is. It sounds like someone's watched, too much witch talk or Charmed or whatever. But again, an introductory email, maybe not the time and place, or hey, maybe it is because it helped me weed out some people, right? But what I do want to say is you have every right to ask for references, okay? And if a group is claiming Gardnerian lineage or Alexandrian lineage or some other kind of oath-bound lineage tradition where things are passed down and traced back up the lines and whatnot, right? You have the right to ask for a vouch, which is to say, you have the right to ask, hey, can somebody vouch for you that you are, an initiated and lineaged, person, part of this tradition that you are claiming? That's totally valid. Please ask for my vouch. I have no problem with that. No one who is valid initiate of the tradition they are claiming would have a problem with that, okay? I have no problem, like I said, ask me for references. Ask me if there's anyone in the coven who would be willing to talk to you and talk about what their training, their pre-initiatory training experience has been like. Cool. Again, I know people don't like to think of it this way because they don't like to mix their magic and mundane and they don't want to think about it in these terms, right? But have you ever been on a job interview? It's more similar than most of us are comfortable with. In a job interview, you're seeing if you're a good fit for the company or the position. And the hiring manager is seeing if you are a good fit for that role too. Again, it's a two-way street, okay? And the same thing applies to finding a coven. You have to be a good fit for them, but they also have to be a good fit for you, and you're well within your rights. Just like if you were going on a job interview, hey, are there any employees that I could talk to? Like, a hiring manager is going to ask for your references, so you can absolutely ask for theirs. But yeah, so that's something you can ask for. Yeah, do you have the lineage you're claiming? And, can I talk to someone who's going to verify that you're not a psycho, right? Or a sexual predator, or you're a fraud who's going to bilk me out of money? Fine. But all of this, like, proof that I have some top secret methods to awaken your psychic abilities is just like, man, now you were talking some shit right out of the X-Files. Oh, and that I'm going to use you as, like, a guinea pig to see if my methods work. And I'm going to take advantage of your abilities. I've been doing this a long time. You are not bringing anything to the table that I need to harness for my own personal gain, okay? I'm good. I got it going on. I'm all right. I don't need your little, untamed, untapped, whatever it is that you're coming in with. It's just so presumptuous. But anyway, that's basically it for my list of what not to do, okay? And if you are a coven leader, coven facilitator, high priest, high priestess, high priestess, high priestin, whatever, and you have more things to add, please drop a comment below, weigh in on this, okay? What else would you love to never hear again in your introductory seeker email? Start that conversation, keep that conversation going with me. But for now, let's move on to, so what should you say instead?
Hi, my name is so-and-so. I have been around several spiritual paths, and I'm looking to learn more about Gardnerian craft and how it's practiced in modern day. I also just want to contribute to a group near where I live. Let me know if you have any newbie events or if I can shadow a meeting or two. I will attend with the utmost respect and am happy to read and understand any material provided before shadowing as well.
As far as seeker emails go, that's pretty solid. Introduce themselves. Here's my name. I've been around a couple of different, I've tried a few different things. Now I'm interested in Gardnerian craft. Okay, we could have gotten into a little bit more detail about which traditions or which spiritualities you've tried, but okay, that I can probe that later in an interview. I'm interested in Gardnerian craft as it's practiced today. If you have any, open events, any events for newcomers, I would love to come. Great. I want to contribute back to a group near where I live. Amazing. So many people write in and only focus on what they can get. No one ever talks about contributing back to a group. So that was a lovely little detail. I would love to contribute back to a group near where I live. Okay, where do you live? I assume if they're reaching out, and in my coven listing, we say, yeah, we're in New York City, we're serving the surrounding areas, whatever. So if someone is approaching me and my group, I'm going to assume that they live nearby. But it's always good to say it, and you don't have to give me your address. Like, be safe out there, guys. It's still the interwebs, right? We're still strangers until we're not. You could say, oh, interested in contributing back to a group where near where I live, which is in Queens. Like, just give me a borough or a broader, like, whatever. Cool. And hey, if there's any material I need to study in advance of attending, I'm happy to do that. Lovely. Very nice. Solid email. Here's another fantastic one.
Hello, I hope my message finds you well. My name is Name, I reside at Place. I found your information on the Coven Leaders list from the Gardnerian Seekers group on Facebook. I am reaching out to inquire if Queen's Coven was currently considering taking on Seekers for training. After much thought, I find myself in a place where I would be able to take on the responsibility of undergoing training with the hope of becoming an initiate in the future. I am X number of years old and have been practicing as a solitary witch, not adhering to any specific tradition, since my early teens. However, my introduction to witchcraft was through Wicca, and it is core to what I currently practice. That said, my current focus has been on developing seasonal devotion and how that integrates with ancestral veneration, as well as working with the genii loci. Outside of witchcraft as a practice, I went to school for subject, am currently working at occupation. I also like to read about the history of modern witchcraft, turn-of-the-century occult revival groups, as well as the niche mystic traditions. I also like to try and grow in my own plants. Thank you in advance for taking the time to read my email.
Yes. Yes. It doesn't get any better than that. That email had everything, right? All the pertinent details, all the information I would need to make a decision. This is my name. This is what I study. This is where I work. This is where I live. This is how old I am. This is what made me interested in Wicca and witchcraft. This is how long I've been practicing. These are some of the traditions I've covered. This is what I'm working on right now in my personal spiritual development. These are some of my hobbies. It was everything. Polite, friendly, without being like overly familiar, respectful. Just, that's how it's done. That's great. And so kind of in that vein, I have prepared a couple of examples of my own, right, to share with you. So
Hello, my name is Shane, he, they, and I found your coven listed on Mandragora Magica. I was wondering if you were currently open to considering new members. I've been interested in Wicca and witchcraft for the last 2 to 3 years, but feel as if I've gotten everything I can out of books and self-study. I have also attended open Sabbath circles with different groups found on meetup.com, and everything I've experienced so far has really resonated with me, so I'm ready to commit to one single group for some more organized training, and I'm hoping yours will be a good fit. I'm 40 years old, work in healthcare, and love to bake and do crafts in my spare time. I would be happy to contribute my skills to potluck dinners and other coven activities as you deem appropriate. I live in town or city XYZ, have my own car, and am available most nights and weekends. Please let me know what additional information you might need from me and advise me of next steps. I can be reached at email address or phone number. Thank you for your time and consideration. Merry meet. My name is Artemis. I'm 33, live in town XYZ, and work in hospitality. I found your coven listed in the Gardnerian Seekers and Initiates page on Facebook and wanted to know if you are currently taking on students. I discovered Wicca recently, about 6 months ago, and it feels like home in a way that no other religion or spirituality has so far. I was raised Catholic and spent brief periods of time as an atheist and Buddhist, but learning about Wicca felt like something clicking into place. I have read everything I can so far on the subject, including books by Gerald Gardner, Doreen Valiente, Starhawk, and the Farrars, and the structure of the Gardnerian tradition appeals to me. I have been celebrating the full moon and new moon on my own every month and trying to learn how to read tarot. I haven't attended any ceremonies with other people yet, but it is something I'm eager to do. My daily practice mostly consists of meditation, which became second nature back when I was studying Buddhism. I don't know if you do barter or trade for lessons on Gardnerian witchcraft, but I would be happy to share meditation techniques with you if this is the case. Aside from meditating, I also love writing poetry and playing the piano. I hope I will be a good fit for your group, and I would like more information on how to proceed from here. I can be reached at email address or phone number. I look forward to hearing from you. Blessed be, Artemis.
So again, as I said, those last two examples were mine, just something I wrote out as an exercise to kind of give you an idea. I hope it's helpful. I can hear some of you preemptively saying, like, all right, Shane, like, why does a coven need to know what I do for a living or what some of my hobbies are? And it's just, we're just trying to get to know you as a person, as a well-rounded person. You're not a two-dimensional, like, you don't eat, sleep, breathe witchcraft and have no other dimensions to you. I mean, if you did, that would be kind of a red flag for me, right? We want whole people. We want you to bring your whole self to circle. We want your hopes and your dreams and your fears and your talents and your abilities. We want you to bring all of that. And, so it's not because we're trying to, scam you or we're trying to stalk you. Again, always be smart. I would never say give out your address or your workplace. That's why if you see in my examples, I say, oh, I work in healthcare. I work in hospitality. I'm never going to say in an introductory email, oh, I work at XYZ hospital. Or I work at this restaurant. Like, you're right. Like, they don't need to know that about you yet. But just a general, my hobbies. I like music. I like reading. I like growing plants, whatever. Everything else can unfold throughout the interview and getting to know you process, but give them a little something to probe, and you as a seeker, if they're not interested in any of that stuff, like, that's a sign to you. Like, if they're not interested in you as a whole person, then you probe that. But I hope those examples were helpful to you. Feel free to use my examples as a little template, plug in your own details, and happy hunting out there. My wish for all of you who are sincere seekers is that you find what you're looking for. And until next time, take care of yourselves and be good to each other.